This book is banging. It is one of my favorite books, one of the most informative books I've ever had in my life, and it's only that long, right? Here's something very effective in it, right? Section 23 on page 19, recourse. Recourse appears in UCC at 1-103.6 as of the time of this publication, which the code is complementary to the common law, which remains in force except where displaced by the code. A statute should be construed in harmony with the common law unless there is a clear legislative intent to abrogate the common law. So again, that's 1-103.6 as of the date of this publication, a fantastic book called The UCC Connection. But when I go to a search and I look up that, I'm actually reduced to 1-103, which is fine. Construction of Uniform Commercial Code to promote its purposes and policies, applicability of supplemental principles of law. So the Uniform Commercial Code must be liberally construed and applied to promote its underlying purposes and policies, which are, number one, to simplify, clarify, and modernize the law governing commercial transactions, to permit the continued expansion of commercial practices through the custom, usage, and agreement of the parties, and to make uniform the law among the various jurisdictions. Okay, it's getting a little wordy, and don't worry, we're going to wrap it up here. Here is where we're talking specifically about, that point 6 seems to have a lot more representation here. So this is subsection B. Unless displaced by the particular provisions of the Uniform Commercial Code, the principles of law and equity, including the law merchant and the law relative to capacity to contract, principal and agent, estoppel, fraud, misrepresentation, duress, coercion, mistake, bankruptcy, and other validating or invalidating cause supplement its provisions. Okay? And that was a lot, right? But it is saying more or less the same thing. Unless there's a clear intent to legislate, to abrogate the common law, then this is to be, the Uniform Commercial Code is to be construed as complementary to the common law. But I did ask it to explain this a little bit more. And so, all right, let's break it down. And the law is saying that if the UCC doesn't specifically say otherwise, then other legal principles still apply, like equity, law merchant, the capacity to contract, principal and agent, fraud, misrepresentation. All of those rules apply unless the UCC specifically says otherwise. Basically, if the UCC doesn't have a rule for something, courts will use normal legal rules to fill in the gaps. So I asked specifically, what does cause supplement its provisions mean? And that it simply is saying certain legal reasons, causes, can add to or support the rules already written in the Uniform Commercial Code. In other words, if the UCC doesn't fully cover a situation, like fraud, for example, or mistake, any of those examples, it can be used to affect how the law applies. These legal principles don't replace the UCC, but they help fill in the gaps when needed. So again, UCC is complementary to the common law, which, in my opinion, there will never be a legislative intent to abrogate the common law that actually stands, for it will be in direct conflict with the supreme law of the land. For any act, provision, statute, ordinance, anything, any rule, any law that is made which is repugnant to the Constitution is, of course, rendered null and void the moment it was even dreamed up. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope it was informative. This book, really cool. It might have some dated information, so it's incumbent upon us to do research to find the modern version of it, and then use the resources at our disposal to derive an understanding that we can own. Right? Information's great, but it's useless unless you own it and know how to duplicate it and communicate it, right? That's called standing. That's called performing upon your stance. That's what it means when we say, united we stand. We need to be able to stand on the things that we comprehend. So I hope that this was awesome. Take care, and Father's blessings and upliftings upon everybody.